Assalamu alaikum everyone. In this episode of Inspirational Muslims, I'll be interviewing our very own Dr. Sabreena Ghaffar-Siddiqui. Sabina is a part of the Saakoon Network, or what we like to call the Saakoon family. Sabreena has written for New York Times, CBC News, The Globe, Mail, and much more. Sabreena currently sits on the board of Canadian Council for Women and the Pluralist Foundation. In 2019, Sabreena was nominated for Canadian Muslim Woman of the Year. Enjoy the inspirational interview I've had the pleasure of conducting with Sabreena, and stay tuned for more. Assalamu alaikum, Sabreena. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really delighted to have you on the show. Sabreena, I know you personally, mashallah. I know the great stuff that you do. Give us a little background and a little taste of the things that you're doing. One of the many, all the many things that you're doing for society, for the Muslim community especially.
First of all, walaikum assalam, and thank you for having me. And first and foremost, I am a advisory board member for Saakoon, so I'm part of the Saakoon family, and that makes this even special to be here talking to you. As you know, and many others know, I'm an academic, I'm a researcher. I just finished my PhD, and my dissertation was focused on being Muslim in the West. So I concentrated on researching, conducting empirical research and writing about the experience of Islamophobia and marginalization and the difficulties that many Muslims face from intersectional backgrounds of Black refugee Muslim youth versus, second generation South Asians. So my study kind of looked at all of that. Other than my academic life and my professional life, I have served the Muslim community, and by way of that, the wider community. I'm one of the founding board members of the Pluralist Foundation, which is an organization that looks to educate people on racism, discrimination, Islamophobia. I'm also on the board for the Canadian Council of Muslim Women. That's a very special role for me. Being a Muslim woman, I felt it was very important to give voice to Muslim women and to represent Muslim women as well, because the perception is usually that a Muslim woman looks a certain way, speaks a certain way. And for me, it became very important to, be one of the many types of Muslim women out there where faith is central to my work and my community efforts, but also to dispel some of those myths and to show the wider community that Muslim women come in so many different forms. And I'm also on the advisory board for the Canadian Muslim Vote, and that's a civic engagement organization. So yeah, I do a lot of board work and community work.
And mashallah, how, for viewers watching, how mashallah do you manage to do that whilst being a mother, a wife, and how do you balance that whilst also balancing your deen and dunya and being a mother and a wife to your family, mashallah? How do you do that?
It's interesting. The question is, how do you balance deen and dunya? But for me, deen is the answer to absolutely everything. So in balancing deen and dunya, deen is central to that, and I feel like every challenge, every obstacle, every time I have felt like I've had to struggle a little bit or work a little harder, at every point in my life, the only thing that has grounded me and allowed me to push through, and given me that inspiration, that hope, that drive, has been my connection to Allah, and keeping that connection to Allah, keeping that rope secure and strong. So deen is central. If you're looking to balance your deen and dunya, you have to turn to Allah. And I learnt, through all of this that it is possible. It is possible. I'm a living example of someone who can be a practicing Muslim woman who's dedicated to her husband and her kids, and building a home that is comfortable and a place where my children can grow to be the next generation of Muslim children living in the West who are also balancing deen and dunya well and well adjusted. Education is very important. Our faith tells us that these things are important. Our faith tells us that we should be a part of the dunya. We should serve the dunya. We should be a part. We should enjoy the dunya, and we should interact with others in the dunya. So, we're not supposed to remove ourselves from the dunya and be so engulfed, in deen that you're not a part of dunya. Your deen should represent you. It should, be a part of everything you do, and that's that. Honestly, that has helped me balance.
Alhamdulillah. What would you say has been your biggest achievement to date?
That's a very difficult question to answer. My biggest achievement to date.
Because mashallah, you I know personally you hit a lot of amazing milestones in your life, Alhamdulillah, but maybe something that, maybe a recent milestone that you had in your life where you feel...
I think that every time I have overcome a major obstacle or a life event that has potentially broken me, every time I've overcome that, I have achieved. And, there have been these little stepping stones of achievement. So there are many, of course, there are so many achievements. Being selected for things, being on the board for things, all of these are achievements. Getting my PhD is an achievement. Being able to give birth to 4 children, and now watching them stand up in Jamaat prayer with my husband as the leader and us behind him. Like every time I see us, praying together, I feel like that is a huge achievement for me, because I was born and raised in the West. For me, it was difficult for me to balance deen and dunya when I was younger, especially. So seeing that feels like such a huge achievement, that I've done at least one good thing, because my 16-year-old daughter is praying Jamaat with us and not saying it's okay, I'll read later.
That is a huge milestone.
So that's a huge milestone. Something else, that actually today I am going to an event for which I was nominated as Woman of the Year, for a Muslim award, Muslim Woman of the Year. And that actually meant a lot to me as a Muslim woman to be selected and nominated by the community. The community nominated me, and voting, it was through voting and through board rankings. It meant a lot to me to be considered someone who is deserving of this, who could maybe inspire the next generation of young women that, it's okay, you can achieve, you can go for things that might seem unachievable, go for them, and you will get there, just push through.
Absolutely. And I feel, would you agree that, I personally feel that we need to celebrate success more in our community, because a lot of stuff we do is, of course, we know the return on investment is in the akhirah, but it is nice to be appreciated for all the hard work that we do, because that inspires us to do more.
Of course.
And I think
it provides us with the fuel to keep going.
Yeah.
You've asked me a couple of times about my family. How do I manage the dunya? How do I manage the work-life balance? It is difficult. It's not all, easy and peaches and cream. There are times where you're exhausted and you feel like you're not doing enough, and you're not a good mother, or you're not doing enough as a Muslim community member, or like you could be doing more, and you do feel that, So we tend to beat ourselves up on these things.
Yeah.
So when something like this happens, where the community turns around and says, we see the work you're doing, we appreciate everything you're doing, and we're putting you, on this kind of like stage today, and today we are just honoring that, appreciating it, and that praise that you get, it ends up being the fuel that you need. Like when you're feeling like slow and kind of like your car is stalling a bit, you get this and it gives you the fuel, and you're like all right, I'm good, I can keep going.
At the end of the day, we're insan. We all need that, right? We all need that, mashallah. It's very well put. If you could go back to your former 16-year-old self, would you do anything differently to what you do today? And what would you advise yourself at that point?
I told you this story actually a because we're friends, I think you've probably heard this before, but when I was younger, my mother would often say to me, because I was quite impulsive and I was quite, impatient, and I wanted things to happen now, and I wanted to see the fruits of my labor immediately. And my mom would, just get frustrated, and she'd be like, "Oh, I named you Sabr, but you have no Sabr whatsoever." And I would hear this over and over again, and at times I would feel like I failed in some way, that I'm not living up to the weight or the expectation of my name. I knew that my name had such, it has a beautiful meaning, it has a powerful meaning, but I don't have sabr, like maybe something's wrong with me. Why is it that I can't be the person my name requires me to be? And it was on the day of my mother's funeral, who, suffered with breast cancer and died when I was 24. I looked in the mirror, and that was the day that I was to go to the masjid and perform ghusl for my best friend, for my mother, for someone who I took care of, for all these years, but for someone who I was so very close to. And after I had been crying for 24 hours, probably non-stop, something came over me, and I just became composed. And I looked in the mirror, and it was like I was talking to Allah. I was like, so this moment is what my name was for. Like all my life, I wondered why I didn't have sabr and I didn't have that patience. But in that moment, the way that sabr just took over me, and I was overcome by, calmness and tawakkul and that consciousness of Allah and belief and hope that everything is going to be okay. This is not the end. I know my best friend has been taken away from me, but this is not the end. And it was just life-changing. So, if I could go back to my younger self, my 16-year-old impulsive self, I would say, have sabr. I would say that, you have not become yet. You are becoming. There will come a moment in your life where you will become, and you will grow into who you are. And your identity is not defined by you right now. So these fears that you have, these doubts that you have, don't listen to them. Listen to that really quiet voice inside you that says to you, "You're good, Sabreena. You're smart. You're intelligent. You're powerful. You're strong." Listen to that voice.
Amazing. And you're so right. I think all of us, sometimes we kill that noise, like we kill the noise around us, and that's an amazing story of realization. So Sabreena, who would you feel at this point in your life, reflecting back, have been your most prominent role models in your life?
That's an interesting question. The reason why I got into the work that I got into, despite being tremendously busy doing my PhD, my master's before that, being a mother to 4 children, I decided a few years ago that I wanted to get a little bit more involved in the Muslim community. A lot of it was because I would go to conferences and I would go to events and I would speak, and I would be speaking about my research, and people would say, in the education, in the higher education field, in the immigration kind of like area that I work in, I would often get praise for the way I speak, the way I talk, the way I, carry myself in a room and command a room. And I knew that that was a gift that I had been given from Allah. I knew that He had given me something that maybe others didn't have, and that's why it was being noticed and I was being praised for these things. At some point, I thought to myself that, what am I doing? I'm speaking in these kind of like circles, these academic circles, these research circles, but how am I engaging with other Muslim people, like my people essentially, right? Like how am I engaging with my own people? And part of the reason why I wanted to get involved was that I didn't have any mentors growing up. In my departments, in higher education, I was surrounded by mostly white men and then white women. And, definitely not Muslim men and women, in any of the departments I was in. And that affected my feeling of belonging in those departments, how comfortable I was. And I always wished that I had a mentor, an academic, someone who was Muslim, someone who came from one of the many, kind of like ethnic backgrounds that I'm a part of. And I thought maybe I should be that person. Maybe I should be that role model, that mentor for others, for other students and other people who are going through the same thing. So that's what kind of got me into this work.
That's amazing. So this is, to me, that is sign of true leadership when you lead by example. MashaAllah, that's amazing that you came to that point in your life. So Sabreena, for the audience who are watching, how are they able to get in touch with you via social media and by any other means? How would you prefer them people to get in touch with you if they want to?
I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, on all the Facebook, all the social media sites. If you Google my name, I think it would be very easy to find the many news interviews I've done, the public speaking events and the work that I do through the Canadian Council of Muslim Women and TCMB and Pluralist Foundation and now Saakoon family. So I have a presence on the World Wide Web. You can Google me.
You have a digital footprint.
Yeah, I do. I have a digital footprint. But other than that, I actually am very happy to engage with people, on a personal level. So if you were to message me and ask for advice, if you're looking to get into higher education, but you're not sure what to do, and you're a young Muslim person, if you message me, maybe you'll be surprised I will message you back. So, I'm one of those people who I very frequently engage with people who reach out to me. So please feel free to message me on any of the social media sites. You can also find my email address on there as well, and I would be more than happy to respond.
Amazing. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for this interview and for the time.
Thank you. Salaam alaikum.
Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the interview. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you're alerted as we upload more inspirational Muslim videos.